Welcome back. After our understanding on the formulation of quantum mechanics, now we are ready to apply those formulations in different cases. So, our first objective is to find out the wave function and hence all the other characteristics of a particle which obeys certain criteria. And we call that particular case as a free particle enclosed in a one-dimensional box. We are starting our lecture with free particle entrapped in a box, and we are assuming initially that the particle is moving in one dimension only. Our problem here is a free particle, in one-dimensional box. So first, we are considering a particle. What is meant by free particle? I'm coming to that later. So first, a particle is entrapped in a one-dimensional box. That means, first thing, think of a box, think of your room. Now, a particle is placed within that room, within that box. And we are assuming that the particle can move in one direction only. Say, the particle can move along positive or negative x direction. So, if we assume that this is our x direction, then the particle is entrapped between these two walls. These are the two walls, and the particle is entrapped between these two walls. So, say this is your particle. So, assume that it is enclosed between x equal to 0 to x equal to capital L. That means length of this box is L. We are not bothering about other dimension because we are already assuming that a particle is entrapped within one dimension only. That is, the particle can move to and fro motion. The particle can give a to and fro motion within this box only. That means this is the region within which the particle can go on. So what the particle does, it goes along this direction, comes to this wall, then gets back from this wall. That means it is reflected back from this wall, goes in this direction. Now it is going along negative x direction, comes to this wall, and again gets reflected. And we are assuming that due to these collisions at the wall, there is no change in energy. That means perfectly elastic collisions. Okay. So why we are assuming this? So that our first application will be much more simplified. It's a simplified condition. So our first condition, understand it again, that the particle is entrapped between these two walls. That means under any circumstances, the particle cannot escape from this box. That means outside the box, here or here, we cannot find the particle. We cannot find the particle outside the box. So as if the particle cannot climb this wall. So as if the potential at this boundaries, that is at x equal to 0 and x equal to L, therefore, under any circumstance, whatever be the energy of the particle, it cannot escape from this because it cannot have an infinite amount of energy to cross this wall. Yeah. Therefore, particle is always within this box. Outside the box, there is no existence of that particle. It is always in between x equal to 0 to x equal to L. It is moving or making a to and fro motion within these two walls. Clear? So that type of box is called one-dimensional box, 1D box. Next thing, we are saying the particle is a free particle. What does that mean? By free particle, we mean that the particle is not doing any work. That means, in other words, there is no force acting on that particle. Within this region, there is no force. We are assuming it. We are assuming it that there is no force acting on that particle. If there is no force acting on that particle, then the particle is not doing any work against those forces. Think of it. If you place your pen on the floor, and now if you pick it up, if you pick up your pen from floor to a certain height, then what you are doing some work. Why? Because whenever you are trying to pick your pen from floor to a certain height, then there is a force acting against you. What is that force? Gravitational force. You are doing some work against the gravitational force, and due to that work you are doing, the pen gets some potential energy, MGH, because you are doing some work against the gravitational force. That work done is stored as potential energy. So now what I am saying, there is no force acting on the particle, and that type of particle is called free particle. If there is no force acting on the particle, then the particle is not doing any work. If the particle is not doing any work, then its potential energy is zero. So within the box, that means between x greater than 0 and x less than L, between this region, you observe potential energy is zero. Potential energy is zero here because the particle is free. Again, why potential energy is zero within the box? Because we are assuming the particle is a free particle. That means there is no force acting on that particle. If there is no force acting on the particle, then work done by the particle is zero. The particle is not doing any work. Therefore, potential energy. How we measure potential energy? Potential energy is the work done stored. So if there is no work done, no potential energy. So potential energy of this free particle is zero. Yeah. So within this box, that means when x is greater than 0 and x is less than capital L, the potential energy is zero. Only at the boundary, that means at x equal to 0 and x equal to L, we are assuming there is an infinite amount of potential. We call it as potential well. As if the particle is placed in a well. It cannot escape from this well. Because the walls, that means this at the boundary, the potential is infinitely large. Okay. Now, under that circumstance, what mathematical equation we can write? First thing, since the particle is moving within this box, of course, but the particle is moving, so a wave is associated with it, a de Broglie wave is associated with it, and hence we can represent that wave by a wave function. So there will be a wave function xt associated with that particle, which is we know composed of two wave functions, one only space dependent, another time dependent. We will not bother about phi because we know the expression of phi. We have already deduced it. We are only bothered about u. That means we only try to find out this u, and that's why what we require, you require the knowledge of u. So what we know for certain that ux will be zero outside the box. Ux will be zero outside the box. That means for x less than equal to 0 and x greater than equal to L. Here u is 0. So from this point onward and this direction and this point onward in this direction, u is 0. Why? Because as we have already said, the particle is only within the box. Outside the box, there is no existence of the particle. Therefore, the wave function associated with the particle must be 0. So outside the box, the wave function is 0. That we know. What we know, Vx, the potential energy, is 0. Where potential energy is 0 for x within this range. Between 0 to L, between 0 to L, potential energy is 0. And at the walls, at the boundary, x equal to 0 and x equal to L, it is infinite. Okay. So these are our basic assumptions and our understanding. Now we can construct our Schrodinger's equation. Which type of Schrodinger's equation we will need? We will need the time independent Schrodinger's equation because we do not need psi directly. We require u only. If I know u, I already know phi. We multiply it and we get the psi. So we are only concentrating on time independent Schrodinger's equation. And what was that time independent Schrodinger's equation? If you recall, it was minus h car square by 2m d2u dx2 plus Vx u equals to EU. That was your time independent Schrodinger's equation. There is no time involved here. There is no function of time, and time itself, the time variable, is not involved here. And we have written it in this way also. Remember, we have written it as d2u dx2 plus twice m by h car square e minus vx ux equals to 0. A second order differential equation with u. We have to find out this value of u. That I told you, that for different application, we have to actually find out this value of u. Now the point is, remember, for all these applications, keep in mind one thing, that u is an eigenfunction, because when minus h car square by 2m d2 dx2 plus vx is operating on u, that means Hamiltonian operating on u, we get back u multiplied with a constant. E is the constant, totality is the constant. So it's an eigen equation. U being the eigenfunction, and eigenvalue is nothing but the energy. Energy is the eigenvalue. Okay, that is the general case. Now, in our problem, it is much simplified. Why? Because in our case, V is 0. Within the box, V is 0. And we will not bother about other region, because apart from that box, the particle doesn't exist anywhere. That means there is no existence of u outside the box. So we only bother about x equal to 0 to L region. Clear? Because outside u is already 0. So what would be our equation now? So let it write it. d2u dx2 plus twice m. What was you observe? V is 0. So what is left? Twice me by h car square u. So twice me by h car square u equals to 0. This is our second order differential equation. This can be written as, I am simplifying it more, d2u dx2 plus, say it is k square u. What I have taken? I have taken k square equals to twice me by h car square, say. For simplicity, I am taking twice me by h car square, because mass of the particle constant, total energy of the particle constant, h car square constant. The whole thing is a constant. So I am taking it as another constant, k square. So that these are second order differential equation. d2u dx2 plus k square u equal to 0. And we have ready solution for this equation. If we have this type of second order differential equation, then its solution is available. The solution will be like this. So u will be a sine kx plus b cos kx. Mathematics tells us that if we have a second order differential equation of this form, then its solution is sum of sine and cos, where a and b are two constants and k is twice me by h car square. X is of course the variable here. So this is our u. So this is the solution, but we cannot use it. Why? Because we do not know these values. We do not know a, we do not know b. These are constants taken. We do not know k. Why? Because in the expression of k, what is, if I ask you what is the value of m, you will tell me, okay, if it is an electron, then its mass is this. H cut, you know. What about energy? How can I say energy of that particle? So it is also unknown to us. So though we have written the expression of the wave function in this way, it is actually unknown to us, because we do not know the values of a, b, and k. These are the three values which are unknown to us. So if we can somehow manage to get those values, then u will be completely known to us. Then we can use it. Remember, whenever we have done some numerical problem, then we can do that only when the whole expression is known to us. That means suppose u is written as root 2k, root 2x, or it is say root 2 sine 5x, like this, then only we can utilize it. So how will you solve it? How will you find those values? Process is very simple. Up to this, only one thing you need to remember is this one. Next, how will you know the values? For that, we'll use the boundary conditions. We'll use the boundary conditions. As the name suggests, boundary condition means conditions at the boundary. How many boundaries we have? We have two boundaries, of course. X equal to 0, x equal to a. These are the two boundaries we have. We have these two boundaries. And what is the condition at the boundary? We know at the boundaries, that means that x equal to 0 and x equal to a, potential energy is infinitely high, V is infinitely high. What else we know? We know at the boundary also, the wave function is 0. At the boundary, wave function is 0. At the boundary, wave function is 0 because the particle can be within the box only. So if the particle exists within the box, wave function exists within the box. Therefore, at the boundary, x equal to 0 and x equal to L, wave function is 0. So these are our boundary conditions. So first boundary condition tells us that at x equal to 0, wave function is 0. Use it. Use this condition in your expression of u and check what would be the simplified form. Do it. Use x equal to 0, u is 0. Put it in this expression. U equal to a sine kx plus b cos kx. U is 0. Now a sine kx. X is 0 means sine kx is 0. So we have a into 0 plus b sine 0 is 0, but cos 0 is 1. So b into 1. So what we get? 0 equals to 0 plus b. That means b is 0. Simple. I'm showing you all the steps. But eventually you understand it. If we put x equal to 0, then the first term becomes 0, but second term exists. Therefore, b is 0. So from that first condition, we get b is 0. Therefore, now our equation is ux equals to a sine kx. Much simplified. Still, we need two unknowns, a and k. But we have another boundary condition. So next boundary condition. So our equation is now, I'm writing it again, a sine kx. Now condition 2. It says at x equal to L, that is the other boundary, wave function is again 0. That means 0 equals to a sine kl. Okay. So a sine kl is 0 now. What can I infer from it? Either a is 0 or sine kl is 0. Am I right? If I have product of two quantities equal to 0, say a into b is 0, then either a is 0 or b is 0, or both are 0. So if I say a is 0, if I say here a is 0, then if I say a is 0, then then the u is always 0. Wave function is always 0 if I take a is 0, which is not possible because we know the particle is moving, and according to de Broglie hypothesis, there must be a wave associated with it. So you cannot say wave function is 0 always. You cannot say wave function is 0 always. That means a cannot be 0. If a cannot be 0, then what is Our option only. Option is sine KL must be 0. If sine KL is 0, then what is KL? Sine, some quantity, say sine theta equal to 0. Then what could be that value of theta for which sine theta is 0? It can be 0 or 180 degree or 360 degree, and the process continues. So in other words, we can say that then KL equals to n pi. Mathematically, n can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Like 0, pi means 180 degree, sine 180 degree 0, or sine pi 0, then 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi. For all these values, sine will be 0. So for all these values of theta or KL, sine will be 0. So mathematically, KL equals to n pi. N can be 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. But this is not about mathematics only. Mathematics is our tool. But as engineer, you need to think logically, physically, whether it is possible or not. And with that possibility, I am saying n equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. not equal to 0. Or by understanding it physically, we are imposing that n can be any value, 1, 2, 3, etc. Any integer except 0. Why? Why I am giving that restriction? You observe, if I say n is 0, if I say n is 0 here, then k is 0. Because KL equal to n pi, L is not 0. We know there is a length of that box. So k must be 0 if n is 0. If k is 0, what was k? You observe, we have assumed k is 2 pi e by h cut square. If k is 0, then energy is 0. If k is 0, then energy is 0. So what is our logical conclusion? If we take n equals to 0, then k must be 0. If k is 0, then from this expression, we get energy is 0. If the energy of the particle is 0, how is it moving? For its movement, it requires energy. And we are saying energy of the particle is 0. Impossible. If we do not have any energy, whether I am massive or I am very light like electron, but for my movement, I require some amount of energy. If we do not have that energy, we cannot move. As simple as that. And this particle is moving in between the two potential. That means it is entrapped in the potential well. And therefore, it must have some energy. Maybe the energy is very small, but it must have some energy. It cannot be 0. So energy cannot be 0. That means k cannot be 0. If k cannot be 0, n cannot be 0. So keeping in mind, and whenever you will writing the value of n, you must mention n cannot be 0. Like this. Okay. So what we get? We get that k equals to n pi by n, where n is this. N is 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Any integer except 0. Okay. So now we know the value of k. Understand? Therefore, our wave function or eigenfunction is a sine, instead of k, now we'll write n pi by l x. So this is our wave function or eigenfunction now. This is our wave function or eigenfunction now. And now if you think of the properties of wave function, you observe all the properties are considered here. Sine is a finite quantity. Its value lies between -1 to +1. And for a single value of x, sine has a single value. So it is a single valued function. So all the properties of wave functions are satisfied here. But one point is left. Still, we do not completely know the wave function because we do not know a. Other quantities are known. N is known because n would be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. values. L is fixed, pi is fixed. So only the quantity which is still unknown is A. Okay. So what we have done up to this, our time independent Sanchez equation is this, because V is 0. Now we have written twice ME by H car square as K square. You can give any name, no problem. Write it in square form. That's all. You can write M square U, no problem. The point is, if this is the second order differential equation, then we have a ready-made solution. And the solution is A sin kx plus B cos kx. A, B are two constants. And whatever you write here, if you write K here, then it will be Kx. If you write M square U, then it will be Mx. Okay, whatever. So this is our equation. This is the expression of eigenfunction or wave function, but it has three unknown quantities, A, B, and K. So we need to find those values, because unless we know the eigenfunction or wave function completely, we cannot estimate other quantities. Then that's why we are using the boundary conditions. We have two boundary conditions, at x equal to 0 and x equal to L. U will be 0. So if I use the first boundary condition, what we get? We get B is 0. That means this is our wave function. If we use the second boundary condition, then we get the value of K. We get that there are different values of K. What are those values? Values are pi by L, 2 pi by L, 3 pi by L. These are the values of K, because we have defined values of N in 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. except 0. So we have different values of K. So now K is known. And we get our U as this. And we get our U as A sin n pi x by L. So this is our wave function or eigenfunction. But as I said, we need to know A. How will you know it? For that, we already used it. So this is our eigenfunction or wave function n pi by L into x. This is our wave function. Now we need to find out the value of A, and we have observed that when we need to find out this amplitude, then what we can do? We can use the condition of normalization. That means total probability of finding the particle in all space must be 1. That condition we can use. So our condition is minus infinity plus infinity, all space, U star U dx is 1. U star U dx is the probability of finding the particle within a small length dx. If we integrate it over all space, then total probability of finding the particle in all space, and we know the particle must be found within this all space, within this universe, the particle must be found. Therefore, it is 1. Probability of finding the particle is 1. Now we'll use it for our case. So in our case, U star is A sin n pi x by L, because this is not, there is no imaginary quantity here. Therefore, U and U star are same here. U and U star are same. Therefore, it will be A square can be taken outside. What is left? Sin square n pi x by L dx equals to 1. Okay, I'm just using the value of U and U star, which is same. So it will be A square sin square n pi x by L dx. Limit, we do not need to bother all space, because we know outside this 0 to L, particle does not exist. That means wave function doesn't exist. So our range will be 0 to L only. We have done numerical problems like this before. So this is our, now we need to find out this integration. So it's a sin square term. So better we write it in terms of cos square. So we know the relation between, we know that sin 2 sin square theta, we know that 2 sin square theta can be written as, we can write it, we need to get rid of this square term. So we can write it as 1 minus cos 2 theta. This we know. 2 cos sin square theta equals to 1 minus cos 2 theta. Use it. Therefore, we can write it. Now here there is no 2. So we need to borrow it. So we write 0 to L. So sin square will be 1 minus cos 2 theta means 2 n pi x by L dx equals to 1. This 2 comes because you require 2 sine square theta equals to 1 minus cos 2 theta. That's why. Okay. Now it's simple. So it is a square by 2. Now we need to do this integration. So let's do first one 1 into dx. That means integration of dx. What will be the integration of dx? Integration of dx is x. It is x only. Minus integration of this cos term. Integration of cos is sine. Integration of cos will be sine 2n pi x by L into L by, clear? So it is this one is the integration of that cos term. If we integrate it, the first quantity comes up to be x. Second quantity, that is cos 2n pi x by L, will be L by 2n pi sine 2n pi x by L. Now we need to give the limit which is 0 to L. This equals to 1. Okay. So if I put the limit now, so it is a square by 2. Now the first quantity is x. So if I put the limit, it is L minus 0, 0. Next quantity L by 2n pi minus L by 2n pi. Now if we put x equal to L, x equal to L means it will be sine 2n pi. It will be sine 2n pi minus sine 0 equals to 1, isn't it? Just observe. First I am putting limiting value of x, that is x equal to L minus x equal to 0. If you just want to write, you can do this. Then I am putting the value of x in sine term. So L by 2n pi sine x equal to L. L cancel out. So what is remain? Remaining part is sine 2n pi minus, if I put x equal to 0, then it is sine 0. And we know sine 0 is 0 and sine 2n pi. N is 1, 2, 3, etc. Remember, that means sine 2 pi, sine 4 pi, sine 6 pi, etc. etc. All are 0. So all these quantities here gives you 0. So what is left only? Only left quantity is L. This equals to 1. That means A equals to root over 2 by L. So this is our value of A, the constant. That means with the help of condition of normalizations, now we have normalized our wave function. Normalizing wave function means you need to have the value of it. That's all. You need to write down the value of it. So what we have done, we have used the condition of normalization, that is total probability for all space is 1. Put the value of u and u star, and you know how to do the integration. Still, I have shown you. And ultimately, you observe the second quantity doesn't contribute. The sine part actually doesn't contribute because when you put the limits, it will be 0. So only value comes from x when x equal to L. So if I put those values, it will be a square by 2 into L equals to 1. Therefore, A equals to root over twice by L. That means now our wave function is complete. Our wave function is now root over 2 by L sine n pi x by L. So this is our wave function. It's completely known. So now we have estimated our wave function or eigenfunction, whatever you say. Now we know our eigenfunction or wave function for a free particle entrapped between one-dimensional potential box. So if we know wave function, what is other thing required? Other required quantity was energy. Let's go back to the expression of K. What we have said, K square equals to twice me by h car square. Okay. So let's come back. So our K square equals to twice me by h car square. That means E equal to h car square a square by 2m. Put the value of h car square. H car means h by 2 pi. So it is h square by 4 pi square. That is h car square. What is k? We know k is n pi by n. Put the values. So this is 2m. So h car square by 2m written. Now k square. K square means n square pi square by l square. So what we get? E equals to pi square cancel out. So what we have? N square h square by 8m l square. So now all the quantities are known here. We know n will be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. H, Planck's constant, m, mass of that particle, and L, the dimension of that box along x direction. So all the quantities are known. So we know energy. But you understand one thing. So our calculation is complete. But please understand one thing, that n can be 1, 2, 3, etc. Not equal to 0, of course. So for defined values of n, we are actually having defined energy values, because all the other quantities are constant. H square by 8ml square is constant. So energy is changing as n is changing. That's why I am writing is subscript here, En. I am writing En. Similarly, you observe u, the wave function or eigenfunction, which is root over 2 by n sine n pi x by l. So for defined values of n, we are getting defined eigenfunction like root 2 by l sine pi x by l, root 2 by l sine 2 pi x by l, root 2 by l sine 3 pi x by l, and so on. So there will be different values of wave function for different values of n. That's why I'm writing a suffix n here also. I'm writing a suffix n. So un x I'm writing, so that we can write u1, u2, u3 for different values of n. Similarly, we can have different energy values. We can have different energy values for different n. Why we are having these different energy values and different wave functions? We'll discuss it in the next class. So for today, only what we have done, we have understood what is the problem. That means the problem statement. Problem statement is that a free particle is enclosed within a one-dimensional box. That means it is one-dimensional box because the particle can move only along one direction. Here we have assumed the particle is moving along x direction. And particle is entrapped between this well. That means as if at the boundary at x equal to 0 and x equal to L, the potential energy is infinitely large, so that under any circumstance the particle cannot escape from it. So particle cannot escape. Therefore, outside the box there is no existence of that particle. Outside the box the wave function is 0. And the particle within the box is assumed to be free from any forces. That means there is no force acting on that particle. Therefore, particle is not doing any work and its potential energy within the box is 0. And since we are assuming that potential energy within the box is 0, therefore we can make this quantity to be 0. We can place Vx to be 0. We can make this potential Vx to be 0. And since this potential is 0, our time independent Schrödinger's equation is simplified in this one. It's much simplified. And if we have this type of second order differential equation, d2u dx2 plus k square u, we have written k square u for our understanding and to get that equation in a sophisticated way. So where k square is nothing but twice ab by h car square. So if we have our equation in this form, then we have the ready-made solution. This is the ready-made solution. U equal to A sin kx plus B cos kx. A, B are two constants. And K depends on energy E, which is also unknown. How will you find those three quantities? We will use two boundary condition and one condition of normalization. So by boundary condition, we mean at x equal to 0 and x equal to L, the wave function is 0. That means at the boundary, wave function is 0. So if we use the first condition, we get B to be 0. That means we have only A sin kx now. Then we use the second boundary condition. And in the second boundary condition, A cannot be 0. If we apply the second boundary condition, so that A into sin kl will be 0, we cannot say A is 0, because if A is 0, there will not be any existence of the wave function. So wave function will be always 0, which is not possible. So only other option, sin kl is 0, and in that case, K will be n pi by n, where mathematically though n can be 0 and any integer, but since we are discussing physical cases, we understand n cannot be 0. N cannot be 0. Why? Because if n is 0, k is 0, and if k is 0, energy of the particle will be 0, which is impossible because the particle is already moving. It has some energy, otherwise it cannot move. Therefore, n can be any integer not equal to 0. So, therefore, now we have our wave function as A sin n pi x by n when we put the value of k. But still A is unknown, and for that we are using the condition of normalization. In fact, we have done some numerical problems also, that if in our wave function this quantity is unknown, the magnitude is not given in numerical value, then we can use the condition of normalization, that is total probability is 1, and from that we can find it out. So from that we have found out that A is root 2 by n. So that our final expression of wave function or eigenfunction comes out to be root 2 by L sin n pi x by L. But you understand n has defined values 1, 2, 3, etc. That means U will have defined values, like we have U1, which will be root 2 by L sin pi x by L. U2 will be root 2 by L sin 2 pi x by L, and so and so. So we can have different wave functions. That's why I am using this n symbol here, so that we can differentiate between or differentiate among those wave functions as U1, U2, U3, etc. And since k is now known, k is known, so we can write down the expression of energy. So in energy comes out to be h square k square by 2m. K is known, put the value of k is n pi by L. So put the value of k. So En comes out to be n square h square by 8 ml square. Again, you observe h square by 8 ml square is constant for a single particle, but n have defined values 1, 2, 3, etc. That's why we have written En, so that for n equals to 1 we can write U1, the lowest possible energy, which is h square by 8 ml square. We cannot have any energy less than that. So this is the lowest possible energy. We have, when E equals to 2, then we have 4 h square by 8 ml square energy, and so on. So that's why we can say now we have different eigen function U and different eigen values E for different values of n. And this n is called quantum number. You know about quantum number for your school days. This is your n, the quantum number. This is the origin. So this is how we can find out the eigenfunction or wave function and eigenvalue or total energy for a free particle enclosed in a one-dimensional potential box.